in Seoul, South Korea, and I don't want to take credit for work where I was not a PI. I was a contributing author, but Dr. Kim deserves credit for the publication.
Now, are you familiar with the levels of propofol that were achieved in this particular case?
Are you
Have
referring
you read
to
the toxicology report?
Yes, I've read the toxicology report, yes.
And you're familiar with the level of propofol, the levels of the razepam?
Yes, in the various specimens, I might need to have a refresher if you're asking me to recall them from the top of my head.
Are you familiar with the concept of combining drugs?
Yeah, combining drugs is, I think, was referred to by one of the other experts as polypharmacy.
Now, polypharmacy, the use of that term, is that a bad term?
Well, in anesthesia, it's what we do every day. We're polypharmacists. We combine drugs to achieve better effect with less medication, because drugs, when they're combined, can have additive or even synergistic effects. And in that way, we try to eliminate the side effects from any one drug by giving lower doses of several drugs. And the challenge is to make sure you don't have adverse interactions. But for example, in the area of pain management, we combine opioids and non-opioid drugs to reduce opiate-related side effects.
So the mere fact that you're using more than one drug at a time, that's not necessarily poor medicine.
I think it's the best medicine if you choose the appropriate drugs to combine and do them in the appropriate doses.
And with respect to propofol itself, is it commonly combined with other drugs in its use?
Well, one of the follow-up studies that we did for max sedation, published a few years later, we actually demonstrated the benefit of giving small doses of midazolam before propofol. I sort of called it for pre-medication or for induction of sedation. And that midazolam propofol technique has become sort of the standard technique for MAC sedation.
Now, in reviewing the facts of this case, you've familiarized yourself with Dr. Schaefer's report, I take it.
Yes, he actually had 2 reports, as I recall.
And with respect to his modeling, as it relates to the statements of Dr. Murray, are you familiar with those?
If you could show me exactly what you're referring to. It was a lengthy letter. He drew a number of graphs, if that's what you're referring to.
In his preparation of graphs, I want to show you.
Could you show me the axis? Oh, thank you. I need to tell Dr. Schaefer he needs to learn how to spell plasma, because I noticed it was also misspelled in the
Objection.
FDA.
This is not Dr. Schaefer's graph, which was made by some other company, as illustrated on the bottom of the exhibit.
The objection is saying it's also non-responsive. So the partial answer is stricken disregard. Can we have clarity, because we're showing the graph? Has this been identified before?
Well, you know, I think that exact graph is in evidence.
I think it's in the letter, Schaefer's.
This is a modified graph.
How was it modified? Do you want to? Mark it as your own exhibit?
Yeah, I guess I'll mark
Triple
this my own,
Z.
but I think that has been shown.
You've got to let me know. I don't know right now.
I think it's in his assessment of the case, as I recall.
Why don't I mark this temporarily, Your Honor, and I'll substitute it for Dr. Schaefer's actual draft. This is basically a copy of.
Why would, I would object, why are we marking it? Why don't we just find the actual graph?
I think that would help if we can. Can the people be of some assistance if it was marked previously, please?
Here's a copy of Dr. Schaefer's report.
Well, I know, but is there an exhibit attached?
We can make this exhibit, will it be ZZ?
Well, Mr. Walden, unless you want to reference something specifically.
Right. I'll be happy to help. There's hundreds of exhibits.
Yes, there are. You want to take a moment? The council would, please.
I've got here a copy of the graph. It's just smaller. It's not as pretty, but it's out of Dr. Schaefer's report.
Well, I think you can mark it as your own, even though the people may have reference to something else. So this is Triple Zulu.
Yeah, we've got that graph previously marked as CC.
All right, so I'm going to forget about the new marking. Charlie, Charlie.
Do you recognize that as being a copy of the graph in Dr. Schaefer's report?
Yes, I do.
What does that graph indicate in terms of Dr. Murray's statement?
Well, it shows the plasma lorazepam concentration. This was the concentration that was measured in the femoral vein at autopsy. It has two lines, one above and below, talking about responsiveness to painful stimulus and non-responsiveness to painful stimulus. And I'm not really sure what that means when you're talking about lorazepam, because it's not an analgesic. That it doesn't have pain-relieving or preventing properties. But basically what it illustrates is the two time points at which Dr. Murray administered bolus doses of 2 milligrams of lorazepam, here at 2 a.m. and then again at 5 a.m. And it shows the modeled, or if you will, idealized blood concentration curves, which might result from 2 milligram doses, with the caveat that that's an average or mean value. In the case of Mr. Jackson, it could have been different.
Did Dr. Schaefer also diagram the midazolam levels?
Yes, I believe so. At least I remember in the letter or the declaration that he submitted.
I need just a minute. I thought I had that one set out.
Yeah, I want to ask for clarification. I show CC as a photo of a plastic bag.
3 Cs.
Is it triple C?
Yes. it's three.
Triple C, please. Thank you.
Your Honor, perhaps this would be a good time to take the afternoon break so I don't
And
waste
for the whole evening, too.
Okay.
May I see counsel, please? Recess and adjournment at this time. Dr. White, thank you for your testimony. Rather than keep you up here right now, I'm going to excuse you and thank you and ask you to follow all the admonitions. Please come back tomorrow morning at 8:45. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I will deliver to you these admonitions, as I do every day. Please don't discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else, or form or express any opinions about the case until it's submitted finally to you. Do not visit any scene or location that may have been referenced, mentioned, or involved in this case. Don't perform any experiments, or on your own or through another person, conduct any independent research or investigation on any topics, subjects, or persons mentioned or involved in the case. Do not read, listen to, or watch any television or radio programs, newspaper or magazine articles, or the Internet regarding any of these topics, subjects, or persons. Don't access any Internet websites, including but not limited to any search engine sites such as Google, Ask, or Bing, or social network sites, including but not limited to Facebook or MySpace, or text or tweet anything about the case, or access any blogs or post any messages on any blogs or any other sites regarding any aspects of this case. Have no contact whatsoever with the defendant, the attorneys, the witnesses, or spectators. If anybody contacts you or tries to contact you with regard to this case in order to discuss it, immediately cease any such contact or conversation. And if anybody tries to contact you with regard to later developments in this case, in an effort to have you at a later point in time contact or communicate with any person or organization about the case, immediately rebuff any such invitation and notify us of such an encounter. Do all of you, again, continue to understand and assure and promise us you will follow the written admonitions which I provided to you at the beginning of the case, as well as these continuing verbal admonitions? All indicate in the affirmative. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask you to join us at 8:45 tomorrow morning. And again, with my continued thanks, have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:45. Good night.